So welcome back, everyone. It's Erica here. I think I've met all of you before during one of your school's trainings. I'm so happy to have you back. And you'll notice as we go along, we have made some changes to hopefully make remote learning or hybrid learning a little bit easier in terms of Listenwise. Okay, if you still want to throw any questions into the chat box, feel free to do that. I probably will share some links as we go along as well. But today's training is all about the new stuff on Listenwise. If you've been in there recently, you'll notice some things have changed. So we're just going to talk about things that have happened since last back to school and especially over this summer. And we'll dive into it. I'll give you some screenshots of what it all looks like so you guys can go back and reference. And then we'll do quick demos on the website to show you how it all works. Okay, first of all, we have a back to school checklist, which I will plop into the chat box. And you all should have gotten it. I know I've been sending out my back to school premium user checklist. So it should be in there, but just want to give this to you. It's kind of helpful, deleting your classes, thinking about next steps and some of the things that have changed to get you up to speed. So that might be helpful. But let's just dive right in. Let's talk about new product features. So one that I'm super excited to bring everyone, because I know this has been a top teacher request. We've made changes to both written assignments and quizzes. So now you can assign to all of your classes at once. You can schedule ahead, and now you have time due as well, and that will all be in your local time. And we have a little box that you can check to share to Google Classroom. So no need to do that extra step and click and go in and share to Google Classroom. So it should all be seamless and really easy to create your assignment and then share with students instantly. And then same for the quizzes. You can assign to all of your classes at once. You can schedule ahead. You can give it a due time. But within this new system, you can still assign the supports as needed. So if you want everyone to get a quiz, but only a couple students to get the supports, you can still do all of that within the user phase. And I'm just going to plop in here. Here's a blog post that has a little bit more about what all those features are, but should be pretty straightforward. And we'll go through a demo of what that all looks like as well. So those are some of our most exciting updates, at least I personally think so, because it's going to make your lives easier. And another thing we did to kind of clean up the classes page, we now have 3 sub-tabs. So you have your assignments tab, so it's going to look just like before. You review your assignments, student work, so that shouldn't change much in your experience with it. Now we have a student progress tab, so you can look at all of your quiz reporting all on one page, all of your classes, and then you can dive into students. So it gives you a nice overview of the quiz data for your students. And then we made a manage classes tab, so now you can go in and look at all of your classes and manage rosters and make any edits from one tab. So these things should make it easier to navigate, easier to keep updated as well. And then you will notice when you're browsing both current events, our collections, you're going to now see a little quiz icon when you're browsing. So I know that was a request as well to make it easier to find. So that little icon will be there. And then you obviously can always keep searching and clicking the with quiz box if you're on the search page. But this will make it easier for you as you're browsing to find those stories with quizzes, because we know quizzes are very popular with teachers. I want to just highlight Google Classroom integrations. I know as remote learning is happening, Google Classroom is becoming more popular. So just want to keep in mind, we have the single sign-on, the roster import. You can share quiz scores, and then now you can easily assignment share as well to Google. And just want to remind you, if you do share to Google Classroom, there will be a link here. This is exactly what it looks like when you post to Google, and then students will just click on it and go right back to their assignment. So it's all seamless within that Google Classroom world. We just want to give you a little visual if you were unfamiliar with that. And then we've also put together a number of resources to help you. We have a quick start guide for teachers. We have an intro video for you to see the teacher and student experience with Google. We have an introduction video for students that you can pass along, and quick start guides. I know it's hard being remote with a new group of students, so hopefully these videos will help you help students get up and running and answer any questions that they might have. And if you don't use Google, no problem. We still have resources for you. So we have a quick start guide that details all of the resources that you need. We have a video for students that doesn't talk about Google, so it's all about class codes, signing up, and then a quick start guide for those students as well. So whatever resources you need, whichever version you're using, we got you covered. And again, I'm going to send these slides over after, so you'll have all of the links available to click on and pull out as needed. But let's pop over to the website. I want to show you all this stuff in action. So here's my account. We are going to pop over to the classes tab first. I want to give you a preview of these changes here. So looks the same. All of your classes are here. You still can pop in, review your most recent assignments, review student work. So this should all look familiar. A little cleaner, actually. We've removed a couple of buttons. Student progress. This is the totally new tab. So for all of your classes, you can get overall quiz performance, and then you can click on a student's name, and then you can get overall quiz averages for students, and then you can see their last quiz submission. So you can compare it to their overall quiz performance, and then you can see the last quiz that they took. So we're going to get into it, but we do have some student-selected quizzing. So all of that could be tracked on this tab. You can still dive into individual students from this page, and we still have that overall class summary report. So you can look at the overall performance for all quizzes across those listing strands. So everything you used to love is still here. It's just all focused here on this quiz tab. And then manage classes. This is going to pull out all of the info, and you'll see all of your rosters here. So you can just toggle down, see your classes, and then it's all on one page. So it should make it easier, less clicking around. And then you can also click the little three dot menu. This is where you would delete old classes. If you're prepping for the new year, you come here, do all of that. And then you can always change your class settings. We now have elementary classroom designations, so you can choose that when creating classes, or you can always come in here later. And more on this, but we have some student selected quizzing that you can enable or disable. Okay, so that's the new classes tab. Let us now talk about the new process when you're creating assignments. I'm going to save time and just go into an assignment I already created. So you can check out the process without me going through creating assignments. Oops. There's one more to click. Okay, so this is what the new page is after you assign a written assignment. After you create a written assignment, you'll see all of this. So again, all of your classes on one page. Just check off the class, pick a due date. You can also do a due time in your local time. And here's where you could schedule ahead. So maybe we're planning on Sunday, don't want it to be released until later in the week. You can do that. And you can still assign to specific students in a class. You would just check, you click the class name. Oh, that was a bad example. You click the class name, get your roster here, and then you could choose that you only want half of the class to get this version. Maybe you're, differentiating assignments. You can do that, pick your due date. So you can schedule ahead. And then here's where you could check to Google Classroom. So if you imported your rosters, you would be able to check the box. Okay, so that is the new written assignment process. So hopefully that makes your lives easier. You could come here to make any updates just like you did before. It was just that slight change in the process. And then let's talk about the quizzes. So let's find one. Actually, let's go to the current events tab, because we do have our weekly Wednesday quizzes, and now they'll be much easier to find because the little icon is there. So you can find a story with a quiz, click on it, and here you'd be able to assign the quiz, and then everything would be on one page. So it should be sleeker to get up and running, and you can check off all of the classes that need it, pick your due dates, etc. If you only want certain students in the class to get the versions, the quiz itself, or the supports, you can still choose that here. So you can just click on those names and then click supports as needed. If the whole class should get it, you can check the box, check include supports, and you're good to go. So that's a new assigning process. Let's see. We're going to go back to our slides now. And I'm going to talk about new content. So we have made some changes. First, this came out in the spring, but just want everyone to know we have, first of all, we have over 2,000 stories on Listenwise. The collection is always growing. I think we have over 400 quizzes now, so that's going to focus adding more quizzes to stories because I know it's a teacher favorite. And one of the biggest additions we made in this past year was to add an elementary collection. So now we have stories that standards aligned lessons and weekly current events that are good for grades 2 to 5. So excited about bringing content to those lower grades. If you have English learners or an ELD teacher, these could be good stories because it is a lower complexity of content. And then I've linked just so you can easily find all of those stories when you go back to review later. And I'll show you where to find them in the demo as well. Another thing we added are weird news stories. So these are posted every Sunday, and they're just a fun way to focus on vocab. They're under a minute long. They have the vocab words you can work on, and they're just super quirky and weird and fun. I highly recommend this one about alligators and social distancing. And if you have English learners, great way to practice academic language in context. So it can be a really good do now for students because they are so short. And you can just make it, weekly activity for students to complete. And we just launched an SEL collection. So I know that's been a hot topic, especially for the back to school season. So great for kicking off the new year by attending to your students' social and emotional needs. So this can be a good way as you're remote for students to listen to these stories and discuss and get to know each other a little bit, establish that positive classroom culture, even if you're virtual. So we'll point out how to get to that collection, but it's always under your collections, and I'll put a link in the chat when we're there. And then this spring, we also launched our Lexile audio measures. So we partnered with Lexile and Metametrics to develop a Lexile framework for listening. So this will help you find audio content that's appropriate for your students. So every story in Listenwise now has the Lexile audio measure. So it's just a measure of the audio's listening complexity and overall difficulty. So we're excited to give you more of that insight into how difficult the stories are. And then as we build out and Lexile has more research and framework around it, we'll work on the next steps with deeper assessment and student-based metrics. And then the last thing I want to show you is our new student-directed learning tools. So this is definitely driven by remote learning and the changes in the classroom and what you guys need to make your lives easier. So quick reminder first that this is what the students' homepage will look like. Nothing really has changed, but now we have the due times. So if you pick that, students would see the due time on their dashboard. But as a reminder, work will still be posted past the due time. It won't be removed from students' dashboards. And then just remember that they can still browse by the content areas. They can still search for stories, and they can look at all the current event stories and all of the lesson collections. Because I want to mention that they can still browse and listen on their own because we now have student-selected quizzing. So if they listen to stories on their own and you enable the student-selected quizzing feature, they're going to see that Start Quiz button. So you could maybe tell students to find 4 stories that have a quiz, take the quiz on their own, and then that can be a nice student-led learning opportunity to practice some listening and listen to stories that interest them. And then all this data is going to be tracked in your dashboard under the Student Progress tab that we already looked at, but we'll go back and look at that again. And then we put together a quick video that shows students how to search for stories with quizzes, how to listen, and then how to take a quiz on their own. So if you are interested in that, there is a video to support you. And then, as I mentioned before, I want to note that the student-selected quizzing feature is something you can enable or disable. It's up to you, and you can change your mind. So you can do it when you're creating your classes, and then you can always go into your class settings and change it later. So maybe you want to start the year without the quizzing feature enabled, and then once you're more comfortable, students are comfortable, you might enable the feature and then do a couple of assignments or homework opportunities around the student selected quizzing. And then we put just a quick short video tutorial that's going to show you both how you would get set up and that student experience if you're curious to see more. And then I want you to know that we still have some features in the works that are coming soon. So students in their dashboards, they'll be able to review their own progress across the listening skills. So based on all their quiz data. So the student report that you can see on your end, we will now be providing that in students' dashboards. And we're going to provide you some more data on student assignments. So you always wonder, were students, did they spend 2 minutes? Did they spend 20 minutes on that assignment? Now you'll have some more insight into how long students are on assignments. So really valuable as you're remote and you can't observe students in the classroom. That should hopefully help you guys as you're remote and hybrid as well. So that's coming soon, I hope in the next few weeks. So it'll be in the newsletter. We'll keep you posted on all of that as it develops. Okay, we're going to do our last demo here, and I want to show you the content and some of that student-selected quizzing. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about is the collections. So we're going to pop into our collections here, and then the new SEL collection will be down here. So this is the collection, and let me actually just shoot the link to you guys in case you want to bookmark it now. But you can always find it from your collections tab, and then here's just that array of stories that you can use for SEL. So hopefully we're adding more collections throughout the year. So we'll keep you updated on anything that's published there. Our current events, I mentioned we'll have that little quiz icon, and then I want to talk about the weird news stories as well. So if we pop into here, I actually just want to take a quick listen in case you guys haven't, just so you can get a feel for what the story actually sounds like.
Good morning, I'm Noelle King. When coronavirus cases started rising, 2 high schoolers in Maryland started grocery shopping for their grandparents. Drew Pye and Matt Casatano wanted others to do the same, so they created Teens Helping Seniors, which is a group that connects volunteers with older adults. They've made hundreds of deliveries. One teenage volunteer told the Washington Post it's given him a greater appreciation for his mom when she does the shopping.
So that's weird news. I think they're really fun. They're just quick little stories, quick do-nows. And I was just looking at the chat box, and Susan says her students love them. So I'm thrilled to hear that kids are liking them too. So that's great to hear. Okay, that's weird news. And then you can always search for weird news as well if you're looking for them. But I was messing with my filters. Oh no, I have to undo this. Okay. And you can always search for weird news just like you search for debate stories. And then you'll see the whole collection there. Okay. And then you'll notice while we're on the search page, you can see the Lexile levels are there now. All those measures, they all have that number. You can always click on the story, the number, and then get more on what the Lexile audio measures are. Again, it's just an indicator of the audio passage's complexity. And we just give you that scale to help you find the right story for your students. And we have some grade level recommendations, but since these new levels are new to you, new to the world, keep it broad, listen to the story, you know your students, and this is just a guide to help you choose the best stories for your students. Okay, and then you can always filter or uncheck all the high, the low, the medium, and then you can filter from there. All right, I want to show you the student view. So I'm in my student account. And I want to talk about what their experience would be like if you enabled student-selected quizzing. But just as a reminder, here's their dashboard. All of their assignments are listed here. Their completed work is below. So they can either browse those content areas just like you can, or we can search for topics. So maybe we want to listen to some stories about sports. So they can see the search results. Everything's here for them. And then if you want them to take quizzes, just have them click the with quiz filter. and then search again. And now we'll see all the stories, both current events and lessons, that have a quiz on them. And then let's just pop in, and then they'll see that button. It'll be enabled for them. So instead of listening here on the page, they'll just click Start Quiz. And if they're enrolled in 2 classes, maybe social studies and English like this, they'll choose the class that they're going to take it for, click Start Quiz. And then it's going to be the quiz just like they already know. And supports are included here. There's no option to remove them. So if students are doing quizzes on their own, there will be supports. And they'll go ahead and take the quiz just like they always do, answer those questions, etc. Let me just guess really quickly so you guys can see the whole experience. All right. Oh, I missed the first one. Okay, let me answer all the questions before we can submit. All right, we submit as a student. Looks just the same again. You see how you did right and wrong answers. You can review them here, and then you can go back to the dashboard as a student, and they will see their quiz score will be there, and that they submitted it. So that's how they know what they took on their own. And then if you assign specific stories, it would say the quiz, and you could review in there, so they could go back. But once they take quizzes on their own, they cannot go back into the quiz. So that's that experience as a student. And then let's go back to the teacher page we just had open. And now that a student took a quiz, what does that data look like now? We'll go to our Classes tab, Student Progress tab, and then if we pop it open, you will see that Peter took the quiz. That was his score. And it will indicate if it's a new assignment. So you'll know at a quick glance what's new, and then you'll know that he took that story. And you can, if you don't know what it is or want to review what the lesson itself is, you can click into that. And then it would also be, if you want to dive into his specific data, it would be added to his overall quiz performance. And then you could see overall performance there. Okay, so that's an overview of what the quizzing looks like. And then just as a reminder, if you want to enable or disable the quizzing, go back into your Manage Classes tab, go to that class that you want, click the 3 dots, class settings, and then here you could enable or disable. Okay, I think that's, oh, no. First, it's not done. We're done with the demo. But the last thing I want to do is to show you a couple of ways you can use Listenwise as you're thinking about remote hybrid learning. So you can still meet the same instructional goals as you did before. And there's so many different ways you can listen. It's really flexible. You used to listen in the classroom together, but now you can just be online and listening together as a class, discussing as a class, or you can keep it asynchronous and have them complete differentiated, independent assignments, giving them whatever resources they need. But as you guys know, Listenwise is just in your toolbox, and you can do a flip grid in Listenwise. You can pair with Newsella. There's lots of ways that you can just add Listenwise into your current routines. And I always want to mention, I know remote learning is hard. It's hard on teachers. It's hard on students. So the most important thing is just finding a good story and getting students listening and engaging with that content. So you can always just pull out the share audio link. It's on every story, and then that's what you can share with students just to get listening. So there's no assignment there. You don't have to do the bells and whistles. And that's just a quick way to get them listening. And then here's a few ways the remote hybrid learning structures. Maybe you want to flip the classroom. So have them listen on their own, and then they can take a quiz. And then you can use that data to help inform your discussion as a class afterwards. Or you can all listen together, build background, maybe have a quick discussion, and then have them do their own activities independently afterwards. But do recommend making a part of the weekly routine. Since remote hybrid, no one knows what the future looks like. You can just make, Wednesday's Listenwise activity day and get students listening. And then just want to remind you that students can explore on their own. So maybe you just want them to find 4 stories for the week and either do a writing prompt or summarize with 5 W's, or maybe you want to facilitate small group discussions about what current events they were listening to this week. especially important during remote to get them talking with each other. So that's one way, or you could do the student selected quizzing. So just a few ways you can think about distance learning and making students more involved in their listening choices. And then here's our first month of Listenwise guide. So from whole class activities to student-led listening, just a few ways that you can think about using Listenwise. And then we've made new resources for you, specifically thinking about remote and distance learning. So we made parent guides, because I know there's some questions and maybe they are helping students get up and running. So links for both of those guides are here. We have a whole Google Drive folder that has more resources, all the guides and other resources that you can link to and explore. And then our Teacher Support Center is always there with a bunch of remote learning resources we've been collecting this year and some instructional ideas. So that's another place to explore and keep learning and listening. So that's it for me, but I'm going to pop into the chat box. I think there's some questions coming, so I want to make sure I answer your questions. Let me see here. Ooh, retaking quizzes. I see a question about that. So quizzes. Well, first a question about grading quizzes. So quizzes are instantly graded, so you don't have to worry about any of that, and you can review all of that from your classes tab. So once you set up that quiz, it's instantly graded. You can go in, you can look at your class report, you can see overall performance by student and across the listening strand here. And then to reset quizzes, you would do that on your own. I know some other apps let students instantly retake on their own. You would control this, you would click the little reset button, and then you just need to confirm. And then that would delete that data and allow students to retake it. So I'm open for any and all questions or feedback, but it's great seeing you guys, hearing from you. I'm so glad you're here and we're back for New Year. And I'll send over this recording and the slides later this afternoon, so you can always refer back if needed.